Prime-time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Closer to home, Lloydminster's new mechanical wastewater treatment facility is nearing the end of its development. Here's Callan Dunlop with more.
Council was told in September 2022 that the wastewater facility project was 65% complete. Fast forward to today, and that number has climbed to near 90%, with the project having a deadline of this year.
We have a deadline of December 1st, 2023 to bring that facility online and be commissioned and operating. And I'm sure our administration will deliver that. The outcome of that, if we don't, and it's very clearly stated by the federal government, is we could face $1 million a day fine as a community, and chances are the mayor will be going to jail.
This year marks year 6 of the project, with all councillors at some point getting a chance to see the site for themselves.
We had an opportunity, some council members and administration, senior leadership team had a tour of it, and it's been the second tour that I've done, and I think a number of council members have gone through as well. Well along the way, and they've begun to commission, if you like, and test out certain parts of the project, and it's a very complex and very large process. We're on target. We're going to be there November 30th, and it'll be fired up and ready to go for December 1st, so it's kind of good news.
The wastewater facility is intended to be used for all surrounding neighborhoods of the North Saskatchewan. Callan Dunlop, Primetime, Local News.
Student actors from Lloyd Comp High School came together at ES Laird to perform Disenchanted the Musical. This performance gives ES Laird students a little taste of what's to come when these young actors perform at Vic Juba for the community. And our Shelby Clark says they all couldn't be more excited. Here's this week's Beyond the Classroom.
A call was put out at the beginning of this year for any Lloyd Comp students wishing to audition in a musical. After casting performers, drama teacher and director Simon Stang explains the next step was choosing which musical would be best.
It's always a struggle picking a good show, finding a good show. I thought it was super funny and well written, and I had a cast of strong females, so I thought, why not give them a show with strong females in it? And they rose to the challenge. It also was a very diverse cast, so I also, it fit well that way as well. So yeah, I just thought it was a perfect fit for the cast that I had this year.
ES Laird was the first school they performed Disenchanted the Musical for, and the plan is to continue performing for all schools within LPSD throughout the week. The best part with this musical? The performance sends a strong message on women empowerment for all kids in the community.
It's a lot about breaking down stereotypes around women. There's lots of stuff around gender roles and body image and just different things that people are expected to do. And so I think it's a really powerful message to bring out and help share.
With an important message involved, these Lloyd Comp students also get to have fun and enjoy the experience entirely.
Now there are those who will tell you to corsets, squeeze it and cinch it. Pinch every inch you can pinch, it's insanity. Why can't...
Oh my gosh, words can't even describe. When I'm on stage, I'm just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is truly wonderful. Having so much fun singing and dancing with everyone and seeing all the smiles and hearing the crowd engage with us, it's so lovely to hear after these few years.
Dress rehearsal takes place for these young performers on Tuesday, and the main performance will be Wednesday, May 24th. Residents who want to catch this fun musical can still purchase tickets on the Vic Juba website. And that's it in this week's Beyond the Classroom.
Moving over to sports now, the Midwest Prairie Pirates season is underway, and they are hoping to repeat the success they had last year and make it to provincials. Here's Thomas Wildman with more on the season so far.
The U18 Prairie Pirates have come out to a strong start in the 2023 season, with head coach Dakota Wheatley happy with the young squad.
Beginning of the season, we're a pretty young team. We lost quite a few players to college, and so going into the season, we had a little bit lower expectations than we had last year. However, with our young team, they've come pretty far in exceeding their expectations for what we had. Played great ball. Pitching has been absolutely phenomenal. We start off the season of league play at 7-1, so I don't see our expectations dropping off all that much from last year as much as we thought, but as long as we can keep up the play that we've had, I have high hopes.
Some of the success from the team can be tracked back to the off-season training the players had done with the Bulldogs Baseball Academy and War Dogs Legion, with some alumni from that program and past Prairie Pirates players being in attendance for practice.
Ellis and Cam, I haven't seen them in forever, and it's been great to see them. We were great buddies last year. I learned a lot from them last year, and I'm hoping to just at this practice maybe learn a little bit more about college and just baseball in general.
The Midwest Prairie Pirates are in Tier 2 baseball, which is one level below the highest rank in Alberta, that league being the Baseball Alberta Elite League. If the team is able to make the provincial tournament and win, they will promote up to the elite level, where a victory in that level of provincials would allow them to go to nationals.
For me, I want to reach Bale so that we can compete in their provincials and play for an opportunity to go to nationals. Nationals is I've been able to attend a few times myself, and it's one of the most fun experiences I had, and I would love for my players to be able to experience that as well.
Thomas Wildman, Primetime, Local News.
Now let's check in one more time with Shelby Clark, who has another look at your evening weather forecast.
Thanks so much again there, Mr. Jace Mackey. Yes, now taking another extended look at your weather forecast. We are kind of sitting at the same conditions as what we were seeing yesterday. Most spots are just hitting that 20-degree mark, and then we have a couple that are just a few degrees underneath. 19 for Athabasca and down in Rocky Mountain House, while it is 21 over in Jasper. So we are kind of matching for sure with those conditions as what we were seeing yesterday, so not too cool and not too much of any scorchers on this side for sure. So that's very nice indeed. But of course, with the wildfire situation, it definitely will be seeing some poor air quality conditions later on through the provinces and through, of course, our region. Switching over to our Saskatchewan side, they are looking a lot cooler compared to our Alberta side, as they are just near those teens, more at that 10-degree mark is what most of these spots are sitting at. 10 for Meadow Lake and over in Prince Albert, so now they're matching with us here in the border city, just hitting that 11-degree mark for North Battleford and up in Cold Lake. Saskatoon seems to be seeing the warmest condition on this side with 12 degrees, and Melfort is at that single digit just at 9. But now as we go over to our northern zone, they are looking a lot cooler as well. They were slightly cooling down throughout the beginning of this week as we're going through it, and now they are definitely seeing probably the coolest conditions yet. Seeing that 4 and 5 for South End and Flin Flon while we start to slightly warm up from there. 6 over in Wollaston Lake, while the 7 for both Losh and Buffalo Narrows, and we go a bit higher to Uranium City and Stony Rapids. They're the only spots just seeing those double digits on this side with 11 and 14. Now as we go back over to Alberta side here in our northern zone, they are kind of matching with us in our central area, as some spots are just seeing around that 20-degree mark. We're seeing that in Peace River, while High Level and Grand Prairie are probably seeing the warmest conditions with 21, and then we start to slightly cool down from there. 18 over in Slave Lake, usually these spots definitely see some slightly warmer conditions compared to the rest of these areas, and then we have 11 and 13 for Fort McMurray and Fort Chipewyan. Now as we go over to our southern zone, they have cooled down as well. They are matching with us on their Alberta side. Most spots are just underneath that 20-degree mark, and then we have Lethbridge as they are just hitting that mark. So they are kind of seeing slightly cooler conditions than what they have been seeing earlier on in the week. And as we go over to our Saskatchewan side here, they are kind of matching with us, looking probably the warmest for the Saskatchewan side compared to central and northern. Here in our southern zone, they are definitely seeing the warmest conditions yet. Most spots are just sitting around 18 to 19 degrees on this side. And then we have 16 in Regina, and over in Yorkton, the coolest just at 11. Now as we look at some overnight evening lows, we will be cooling down quite a bit for tonight in most of these spots on this list. And in our surrounding areas, we are expecting that low of 3 for Provost tonight, a low of 2 Bonnyville and Middle Lake we'll be seeing tonight, and a low of that 1 degree mark that Isla Crosse and Paradise Hill will be expecting tonight, kind of matching with us here in the border city and some other areas. So we are going to be cooling down quite a bit. We are expecting those plus temperatures once again for our evening lows, but you know, it's definitely a lot cooler than what we have been seeing for the past couple weeks as we were starting to warm up. But probably the main thing here is that all of these areas are going to be expecting, you know, some smoky air conditions outside. So please make sure you are being safe. And like we were even bringing up earlier on in the show, try to spend limited time outdoors. Make sure to try and stay indoors as much as possible because this will be pretty hard to breathe outside. Looking at our Thursday here in the border city for our hourly forecast, we will be cooling down once again, slightly warming up from what we were seeing today for our daytime high. We will be starting off quite cool with that 2 degree mark in the morning. Then as we go through our mid-afternoon, we will hit that 15, 17 degree mark for our daytime high. So expecting a slightly warmer day tomorrow compared to what we are seeing here for our Wednesday today. And then we won't be cooling down by too much later on tomorrow night because we go past that. We will pick it back up for our Friday at 27. But be prepared. We don't really know what's going to be happening with these smoky conditions. We are expecting that to continue on into our Thursday and Friday. And then we will be looking at a beautiful weekend with 26, 29 Saturday and Sunday. But just make sure to stay tuned and watch an Environment Canada and just see how it looks outside. Because as we head into next week, we hopefully will be getting that rainfall. And I think we all are really hoping so it can help with these dry conditions. So just be prepared. We hopefully will be seeing some precipitation pretty soon here. That's all I have for now. Our Jace Mackey, we'll have more news coming up after the break.
Stephanie Dobson is back with us this week. Stephanie is a lawyer and mediator at Hankett Divorce Law and Mediation here in Lloydminster. And we're back with another episode of Healthy, Thriving Family After Divorce. So Stephanie, we have been talking about child support over the past few episodes. We're going to continue that today, talking about something called shared parenting. So let's get started by explaining what exactly shared parenting is.
Sure. So shared parenting in essence is describing a certain allocation of parenting time between two parents after separation or divorce. So it goes by percentage under the child support guidelines. So it's where both parents have at least 40% of the time with the children over the span of an entire year. It used to be called shared custody under the old legislation. That's prior to March of 2021, but we've updated it. It's now called shared parenting. So given that this is calculated on an annual basis, parents can literally get down to the number of minutes in a year. So we're not just talking about, sharing of parenting equally over the summertime and the rest of the year not. So we can even get down to the minutes. There's 525,600 minutes in a calendar year. So, we can get as detailed as that. So when we're creating a parenting schedule the legislation doesn't necessarily provide for a presumption in favor of this shared 60-40 or 50-50 parenting. It just more talks about the quality of the parenting relationship with the children.
So let's talk about child support and how does it work when there is a shared parenting arrangement?
So our viewers may remember from our past episode that child support is calculated based on what's called the child support guidelines. So these are either federally or provincially regulated. So shared parenting actually has a special section all to itself. It's under what's called Section 9 of the child support guidelines. So first, when we look to calculate child support for shared parenting, there's 3 points to consider. So the first one, we look at the child support formulas. So in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about that base amount of support. And in shared parenting, we call it a set-off approach. So what we do is we do the calculations as if the kids are living full-time with mom and what would dad pay to mom? And then we do the opposite. What would mom pay to dad if dad had the kids full-time or in a non-shared parenting arrangement? So then if dad would pay to mom $500 a month and mom would pay to dad $300 a month, then we take the difference between those two. So that's what's called the set off, or it's the mathematical calculation way to figure out child support for shared parenting. Now, that's not where we stop. That's just the starting point. So the next two factors that we look at in the guidelines is what I call the flexibility sections. So that just says that we can't just use that first way of the pure math. We actually have to look at the circumstances surrounding shared parenting. So first, we look at any increased cost of shared parenting. So you're not just parenting every other weekend for a few hours or for the whole weekend. You're actually setting up your home to be more of a 50-50 equal arrangement. The second thing we look at is what we call the conditions, means, needs, and other circumstances. Of course, that's a mouthful, but that's all from the legislation. And we look at that for each spouse and for the children for whom support is sought.
Would there be any tax implications with this?
Well, under the shared parenting legislation, that legislation is slightly different than the pure tax consideration. So what we want to look at is two different pieces. So one is the CCB, so it's Canada Child Benefit, and the other one is the AED credit. That's the amount for eligible dependent. So let's first look at the CCB rules. So that under the Income Tax Act, one of the keys to what they call shared custody or shared parenting is that the children are residing with one parent with a parent on an equal or near equal basis. So there's no specific percentage, but if it's equal or near equal, then each parent is eligible to actually receive half of their CCB entitlement. So each month, instead of receiving $300, you'd receive $150, and then the other parent would be the same. So the second one is the AED credit. Again, that's the amount for eligible dependent. So that's where people will talk about claiming a child on their taxes. So there's two criteria if you want to claim this credit. First, you need to be unmarried or separated. And the second one is you need to maintain what's called a self-contained domestic establishment where you support a dependent. So of course, if you only have one child, then you need to figure out which parent is going to claim the children on which year. But you have to make sure that you qualify for claiming a child on your taxes.
All right, Stephanie. Well, good information as usual. Thank you so much. And we'll be back again to chat with you next week.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm happy to be joined here today with Nicole Theriault with Border Paws. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's not Pet Project, but we are talking about a sale that you have going on.
Yeah. So we have all of our adoptable adult animals, so dog and cat, are 50% off. We have a huge number in dogs that we actually have no space to intake anymore. We're filled right up, starting to get a lot of random single puppies like this little girl here, Tonka. So yeah, we just kind of need to clear out the shelter. So we are doing a 50% off all adult animals. So that's any animals 6 months and older.
And how many dogs and cats would you say that you have currently, even if it's a rough estimate on how many you actually do have in the shelter?
Yeah, so I know for a fact we have 24 dogs in our care right now. So that's quite a bit. A few are in foster, though. A few of the puppies are in foster. And then cats, I would say we probably have about 30 to 40 cats as well.
And especially with stray season kind of starting up with the summer and all of that, you really want to make sure that you have the space to intake all of them, even if it is going to a foster home. For that situation, if people do find strays, what should they do? I know we've talked about it before, but it's a good reminder to have for people.
So yeah, like if you get a stray, obviously if it's injured, they take priority. I would recommend calling the vet clinic and getting them there. We work really close with Animal Hospital as well as Weirs, so then they'll contact us and get the animal medical care. I know with the heat too, you might see a lot of animals in distress, just with it being so hot out. But yeah, no, or you can give a shelter a call, or if you see a dog running around, or even a cat, you can always give the Lloydminster bylaw a call, and then they can actually come and get, because you always want to be careful when you're going up to a dog, right? Or a cat, because you never know if they're going to bite you or not. And if they have disease, then it could lead to all kinds of problems. So I recommend just calling the Lloydminster bylaw office, and then they'll get in touch with us and we can get the animal in there.
Seems like a crazy dog for sure. Now I know we were talking earlier before we started about the importance of spay and neutering your dogs and your cats. Tell me a little bit about why that is important and why people should continue to do so.
So yeah, it's pretty much the main reason why animals are going to roam. Unneutered males, they're looking for a mate in cats and dogs. So if your male is unneutered, they're going to be going out and trying to leave your house to go find a female that they can mate with. So we can actually reduce the strays by just spaying and neutering. It's so important because they get out and we end up with unwanted litters. And then, that's why all the shelters are full. I know it's an accidental litter, but I mean, that extra 10 puppies trying to find them homes and stuff like that makes quite a big difference in what we can intake. So my recommendation for anybody who has their animals or roaming, get them spayed and neutered, because it will definitely help to keep them wanting to stay on their property and not be roaming looking for a mate.
And for this 50% off sale, how long is it going to till, and is the application process the same as always?
So yeah, we were only going to do it till this Saturday, but we've actually decided to extend it till May 27th. So you still have all this week and next week. And yeah, the application would be the same. You would just she likes to chew. You would just send in your application, and then one of our representatives will contact you, and we can either set up a meet and greet, or if you've already had your mind made up, you can come down and we'll get the adoption going for you. And so it's 50% off. So I believe that's going to work for adult cats. You get adult cats for $75, and then they're regular $150. And then adult dogs are $250, but you'll get those at half price too. So $125. And the animal comes up to date on vaccines, microchip, as well as spayed and neutered.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. And hopefully the sale gets some of these animals into their forever homes, so you have more space and they're also in a loving home as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
And that's our show on this Wednesday night. Thank you all so much for joining us on this edition of Primetime Local News. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here again tomorrow. Have a good night.